Rich man witnesses Maid teaching his mute son to speak. You won't believe his reaction. The mansion was massive, towering over the quaint little houses like a fortress of secrets. Inside, the air was thick with tension. The rich man, Mr. Holloway, paced the marble floors, his polished shoes echoing like thunder. He couldn't shake the anxious flutter in his chest, a feeling sharper than a knife. His son, Tommy, had never uttered a word. Not a whimper, not a whine, just silence, heavy and oppressive. But today, something was different. The maid, a quiet beauty named Clara, moved with an air of purpose. Clara had been with the Holloways for years, her gentle smile a stark contrast to the cold, shadowy halls. She held a strange artifact in her hands, a colorful, worn-out book filled with pictures and strange symbols. It wasn't just any book. Its pages throbbed with hints of magic, whispers of a long-lost language that could teach the unteachable. Tommy sat on the floor, eyes wide, a mix of confusion and curiosity plastered across his face. As Clara pointed to the images, sparks of interest flickered in him like tiny fireflies. Mr. Holloway paused. He leaned against the wall, brow furrowed. The sight was surreal, pure and innocent. His son, grasping at words as if they were catching butterflies in the air. The room held its breath as Clara gently coaxed Tommy, "Just try, sweetheart. You can do this." There was something hauntingly beautiful about that moment, yet Mr. Holloway felt a pang of dread gnawing in his stomach. What if this was a private miracle meant just for them? His heart raced as Clara knelt closer to Tommy, her voice dropping to a soothing whisper. "Look at this one, Tommy, what do you see?" Intensity hung between them, thick enough to slice with a knife. And then, just like that, it happened. Before we continue, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The sound was like a crack in the universe. A word, soft yet strong, broke free from Tommy's lips, and Mr. Holloway's breath hitched. The sudden rush of hope was overwhelming. But then, a shadow passed over the room. It was like dark clouds eclipsing the sun. Clara's expression shifted, her eyes wide as fear slashed through her serenity. What's wrong? He wanted to shout, but all he could do was stand there, frozen, watching. Tommy's brow furrowed in confusion, and the room seemed to tremble with uncertainty. How could one word hold so much weight? Not just for him, but for Clara, a flicker of a secret buried deep, begging to be unearthed. Suddenly, there was a bang. A loud crash from the study, the door swung open, and in walked a figure, cloaked in darkness. Mr. Holloway felt the world tilt beneath him. Who was this intruder? What did they want with his son? His heart raced, and for the first time, he felt the true depth of his protective instincts bubble to the surface. The whole room went cold, a chill creeping through the air faster than a winter storm. What had begun as a fragile moment of hope spiraled into chaos. The silence of the mansion was shattered, echoing fears of all that could go wrong. The shadows deepened, twisting around the walls as the cloaked figure advanced. What would happen next? Would Tommy's budding voice be stolen away again? Questions buzzed loudly as Mr. Holloway's protective urge burned brighter than ever. All the while, Clara stood at the center of it all, white-knuckled, ready to fight for the words yet to come. The battle for hope had only just begun. The cloaked figure halted just inside the doorway, the shadows clinging to him like a second skin. His face was concealed beneath a dark hood, but his presence was palpable, exuding a potent mix of menace and mystery. Tommy's small body trembled, the fragile moment of newfound hope slipping away like sand through fingers. "Who are you?" Mr. Holloway demanded, his voice a low growl, stark with urgency. The air felt electric, the only sound was the heavy thud of his heartbeat ringing in his ears. He could sense Clara's fear radiating behind him, yet he dared not look back. Taking a step closer to the intruder, his fists clenched, ready to protect what was his. "You shouldn't be here," Clara whispered, stepping forward. She exuded bravery, the trepidation in her eyes stark against her defiant stance. "Leave, or I'll call for help." But the figure didn't budge. Instead, he lifted his hand slowly, revealing a glint of something hidden within his grasp. A small pendant dangled from his fingers, catching the dim light. The symbol etched into it was unmistakable. It mirrored the one from the book Clara had shown Tommy. A shiver ran down Mr. Holloway's spine, a connection he couldn't fully comprehend, but he could sense that it was dangerous. The figure spoke, his voice smooth yet chilling, like ice skimming across bare skin. "He speaks." He should never have learned the words hung in the air, thick with foreboding. "What you're trying to do here goes against the natural order." Mr. Holloway's stomach twisted. "What are you talking about?" "Tommy has a voice, he has a right to live fully." His own words were a lifeline, a desperate plea against the dark anticipation growing inside him. "Not all gifts are meant for this world," the figure said, taking a step forward. The darkness seemed to pulse around him. "You think you understand what's best for him, but you do not know the risk." "Stop!" Tommy shouted, his voice small but fierce. It was a demand born from months of trapped silence, a spark igniting within him. Every ear in the room fell deaf at his words, an eruption of astonishment echoing through the hollow walls. Mr. Holloway's heart raced. Clara gasped, tears threatening to spill as joy and fear intertwined in her chest. "It's okay, Tommy. You're safe," she urged, stepping closer to the boy, but Mr. Holloway held out a hand to her, eyes locked on the cloaked figure. But the figure only grinned, a smile filled with malice that sent a chill deep into Mr. Holloway's bones. "You see, Mr. Holloway, the moment he speaks is the very moment danger lurks. You have opened a door that cannot be closed. And I assure you, there are forces far greater than you can comprehend, hunting for him." The tension grew thick enough to choke on, hearts racing as the realization dawned. There was more at stake than their small family tragedy. A battle for Tommy's life was beginning, and shadows from the past were coming for him. As the figure laughed softly, it was not the sound of joy but a precursor to something far darker. They were out of options and out of time. Mr. Holloway's mind raced, searching for answers or a way out, but suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the floor above, the unmistakable sound of something breaking. "What was that?" Clara cried out, her resolve shaken. "We need to get Tommy out of here." Mr. Holloway took a deep breath. "Stay close to him," he ordered, his voice steadier than he felt. As he edged toward the dark figure, he knew one thing for certain: the fight was only just beginning. With fear gnawing at him, he wondered what other secrets were hidden in the shadows. Would they find a way to keep Tommy's voice, or were deeper threats lurking just beyond the walls of their mansion? He steeled himself, ready for whatever came next, for the battle for Tommy's future stood on the razor edge of chaos. The air crackled with tension, every heartbeat echoing off the worn walls. Mr. Holloway's heart pounded a primal rhythm, drowning out the figure's dark laughter, a sound that felt like a countdown to inevitable catastrophe. "Clara!" He spat, urgency sharpening his words. "Get Tommy upstairs, now." Clara hesitated, her eyes darting between her father and the figure. "What if he know?" Mr. Holloway shot back, his patience fraying. "Go. I'll hold him off." Tommy's small hand gripped Clara's tighter, fear entwined with trust. "I don't want to go without you," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Please, stay together." Mr. Holloway's voice cracked, desperation seeping through. The instinct to protect them was overwhelming. He could face the cloaked nightmare alone. The weight of the pendant's unveiling loomed over them like an ominous storm. With a reluctant nod, Clara turned, pulling Tommy's small body toward the staircase. Just as they moved, the figure stepped closer, his presence bearing down like a thick fog. The pendant glimmered ominously between them, a beacon of danger. "Fleeing is futile," he said, his tone silky and menacing. "For every step you take, the shadows deepen. Suddenly, the floor above creaked and groaned as if responding to the figure. Clara paused, her breath hitching. "Did you hear that?" she asked, wide-eyed. "Keep moving," Mr. Holloway barked, forcing his panic into a shield of anger. He could hear Tommy whispering reassurances to Clara, and the instinctive fatherly pride momentarily stifled his fear. They needed to escape, but he couldn't abandon them to this horror. "You're all so blind," the figure purred, stepping further into the room, his dark cloak swirling like mist. The boy's voice carries far beyond these walls. It awakens things you cannot even begin to comprehend. They'll come for him, and when they do, his voice trailed off, each word laced with dark pleasure. Mr. Holloway shifted his weight, ready to confront whatever shadows lurked in the dark. "What do you want?" he demanded, trying to keep his voice steady. "What are you?" The figure tilted his head, a cruel smile stretching his lips. "What I want is of no importance. It's what they want that you should fear. I am merely a messenger, a harbinger." The air felt colder, each breath like shards of ice. The walls seemed to pulse, as though reacting to the figure's taunts. Mr. Holloway felt an avalanche of dread crash over him, flooding the space between himself and the figure. "Why don't you take a step back?" Mr. Holloway warned, his fists pulsing with constrained energy. "You don't know who you're dealing with." "Ah, but I do," the figure said, voice dark and inviting. "And you'll learn very soon, Mr. Holloway. The real battle is not merely for Tommy's voice, but for his soul. And I am neither the beginning nor the end." That sent a cold terror spiraling through Mr. Holloway's thoughts. The haunting implications twisted in his gut. Were there forces beyond this figure? What did they want with his son? A strange noise, a blend of screeching and rustling, filtered down from above. Clara's face blanched. "Dad, we need to go. Now." In that instant of clarity, Mr. Holloway realized this wasn't just about saving his son anymore. The shadows weren't just lurking, they were already in play. "Run!" he shouted, determination igniting a flame in his chest. The game had changed, and he wasn't backing down. Suddenly, a dark shape emerged from the shadows near the staircase, moving swiftly, like a thick fog slicing through the air. The swirl of chaos erupted, the world spun around them as time fractured. Now they faced more than just one figure. "They're here," the cloaked figure whispered with a predatory grin. "Welcome to the real nightmare." What awaited them behind those shadows? Would they manage to escape the clutches of the darkness closing in around them? The darkness surged forward, a living entity hungry for light and warmth. Mr. Holloway's breath quickened as he caught the flash of eyes between the ethereal shadows, multitudes watching, waiting for the moment to strike. Clara and Tommy were still moving, each step a desperate plea against the tide of terror threatening to swallow them whole. "Go!" he shouted, urgency thickening the air. "Don't look back." Clara stumbled slightly but regained her footing, gripping Tommy's hand tighter. Her heart raced, pounding in time with the dread crashing around them. The sound of their hurried footsteps echoed on the cracked hardwood, mingling with the unearthly whispering that crept along the walls. As they turned the corner, Clara's mind raced. Where could they possibly go? Where was safety in a house that felt suffocating, with twisted hallways that felt like they were closing in? Just then, a shrill scream pierced the air, its source igniting her panic. "Dad!" she cried, her eyes wide with terror. She caught a glimpse of him, silhouetted against the shadowy figure emerging from the murk, more ominous than before, more defined. It stretched its arms wide, as if to embrace the chaos he had conjured. "Clara! Keep running!" Mr. Holloway's voice was a mixture of strength and desperation. He was facing the cloaked figure alone, braced for an unseen confrontation. Clara's stomach twisted. She couldn't leave him, but fear clawed at her, moving her feet toward the staircase. They were so close to safety. But at what cost? What if he didn't make it? "We can't leave him," she shouted back, torn between instinct and the goosebumps of terror crawling down her spine. "He can't be saved if you don't save yourselves." He surged forward, fists clenched, even as a darkness pulsated from the figure. The words hung in the air, thick with uncertainty. Suddenly, the figure laughed again, a chilling echo that seemed to seep into the walls around them. You think the boy will escape his destiny? The shadows have their own designs, little one. Tommy looked up at Clara, his face pale, trembling as if he sensed the weight of those dark designs. Clara, we have to go, he whispered, his small voice trembling. With a nod, Clara turned, pressing onward, though every fiber of her being fought against it. As they ascended the stairs, the shadows slithered along the walls like serpents, hissing, whispering, taunting them from all sides. What were they? What did they want? Each step felt like a weight bearing down, as if the house itself wanted them to turn back. Clara's breath came shallow and fast, each gasp thick with the scent of fear. Then, from below, she heard a bone-chilling roar, a scream of rage and sorrow that made her stomach churn. Go. Keep going. Mr. Holloway's voice rang out again, a sound of defiance battling the encroaching dread. Clara reached the top of the staircase, pulling Tommy into a dimly lit hallway. She glanced back, heart racing, just in time to see her father launch himself at the shadowed figure, an act of desperation echoing in her mind. Dad! She cried, but it was swallowed by the sound of more shadows joining the chaos below. Clara, we can't stay, we have to find a way out. Tommy urged, tugging at her sleeve. Clara knew he was right, but a part of her wanted to launch herself back down to the chaos, to save her father. What if he was already lost? The house creaked ominously, and the air felt electric. An energy pulsed through the bones of the walls, crackling in a way that made every nerve in her body stand on edge. She had to reach for hope now. Come on, Tommy, we need to go. She pulled him down the hallway, focusing on the flickering shadows cast by their breaths. As they approached a window at the end of the corridor, the sound of shattering glass echoed behind them, sending fresh waves of panic through Clara. The shadows were closing in on their location. She hesitated. Was it too late? Clara! Tommy yelped, pulling her by the hand. Focus! With one last glance back, she caught sight of her father gripping the figure's arm, desperate and wild. The shadows surged around him, tangible and dark, eager to consume him whole. Clara! He cried out one last time as the weight of the shadows drew him in, his figure almost obliterated by swirling darkness. The window loomed ahead, but Clara felt glued to the spot. Would they abandon him? Could they survive with these horrors creeping ever closer? Let us go. Tommy urged, pulling her again with surprising strength. Clara felt the pang of fear deep in her chest like a vice, but she clutched at her brother's trembling hand and charged toward the window as a deep rumble shook the very floor beneath their feet. But just before they reached the window, a shout rang out from below, piercing through the chaos. The shadows they awakened something worse. Everything around them trembled as shadows multiplied into grotesque shapes, dragging whatever they could grasp into the abyss. Clara's heart raced. What else was coming? She knew they had no choice now or never. As they bolted toward the window, the chilling question hung in the air: what awaited them on the other side of that glass? As Clara and Tommy hurled themselves toward the window, the world around them began to distort, bending like a warped mirror. The cacophony of screams, both from their father and the shadowy voices, fused with the crack of glass, creating a sinister symphony fueled by fear. Just as the boys reached out, hoping to shatter the surreal boundary, darkness loomed, reaching for them like icy fingers clutching at their ankles. Clara! Tommy cried, panic flooding his voice. What if it leads to nowhere? Her heart raced as she gritted her teeth. It doesn't matter. We have to find out. She did not have time to ponder. With all her strength, she slammed her palms against the glass surface, muscles taut, terror forcing her to act instinctively. The glass resisted, solid and unyielding beneath her touch. Just when despair threatened to swallow her whole, something shifted. A blinding light radiated from their hands, shooting through the glass like a beacon through fog. A strange hum filled the air, and for a moment, Clara felt as though the shadows recoiled, curling back in on themselves as if repelled by pure light. Jump! Clara shouted, urging Tommy toward her as sheer will carried them through the moment of doubt. Just as they lunged forward, grasping tightly to each other, the window shattered with a thunderous crack, allowing the light to explode outward, scattering shadows like leaves in a storm. The brothers tumbled through the opening, and Clara's heart leaped. An expansive garden stretched out beneath them, vibrant colors lit by a sun that felt warm and genuine. For the first time, she dared to breathe. Had they escaped? But then came a pulse of darkness flickering at the edges of her vision. Somewhere deep behind them, the shadows writhed like a viscous sea, angry at having lost their prey. She turned to see the figure that had once seized her father. It roared, a sound that drowned out the melodic chirping of birds, filling the air with dread. "Clara, what do we do?" Tommy whispered, his hand now trembling uncontrollably. "We run," Clara commanded, instinct kicking in again. They sprinted across the garden, past flowers that stood in defiance against the lingering gloom. But Clara could feel the weight of the darkness assembling, pulling itself together as if orchestrating a counterattack. Desperation fueled her steps, and she urged Tommy onward. "There's got to be a way out, Tommy. We just have to find it." Each footfall resonated with urgency. They darted for a gate looming ahead, covered in vines and brambles. But as they reached it, Clara felt a shift in the air. The sweetness of freedom quickly transformed into terror as thick tendrils of shadow burst forth from the ground, snaking towards them. "Clara!" Tommy screamed, eyes wide in horror. Panic surged like a tidal wave. Clara pulled him toward the gate, her pulse pounding in her ears. "Hold on tightly." Just as they neared the rusty latch, the shadows spiraled and twisted angrily, forcing Clara to realize something horrific. These shadows were not just coming for them, they were clawing and fighting to regain something lost. Her father, perhaps? The thought made her stomach twist in painful knots. "Help me!" she cried, wrestling to pull open the gate as the ground quaked beneath their feet. "I can't," Tommy wailed, paralyzed with fear. The shadows roared, engulfing the light, which flickered like a dying star, bringing Clara back to chilling reality. In this moment, as the shadows wrapped around their ankles, a visceral choice was clear: either stay and face the darkness creeping in, clawing for their very souls, or push through and find out what lay beyond that gate, even if it meant leaving everything behind. With one last blast of energy, Clara summoned whatever strength was left, forcing the gate open, and with Tommy beside her, leaped into the unknown. But beyond the gate, they found not just an escape. They found a world they never could have imagined, a world shimmering with opportunity and danger alike, teetering on the brink of two realities intertwined. However, as they stumbled through, Clara felt a chilling whisper tickle her ear: "You can't escape your past." What awaited them in this new place? Would it be a sanctuary or a trap? They landed on soft grass that felt like a blanket beneath them. Clara took a second to gather herself, glancing around in awe. The sky above them was a swirling tapestry of colors, bright and impossible, a world that seemed alive in a way she had never experienced. Yet, apprehension prickled her skin. The shadows were still pursuing them. "Where are we?" Tommy stammered, craning his neck, eyes wide, trying to absorb the bizarre landscape. "I don't know, but we need to keep moving," Clara replied, heart racing. The garden was colossal, its beauty deceptive. Flowers with petals the size of her hand bloomed in every color imaginable, and towering trees stretched high into the horizon, their leaves shimmering like gemstones. But she could still feel the insidious lure of the darkness looming behind them, a simmering threat that refused to relent. As they navigated the winding paths, Clara felt something shift within her. The warmth of the sun was intoxicating, filling her with hope, yet it muscled its way into a stark realization. "Tommy, we left Dad behind. What if the shadows come for him next?" His face paled. "We can't just forget him." Clara's stomach twisted, guilt stabbing her. "I know. But we need to figure out how this world works. Maybe there's a way to save him." Just then, they heard a rustling nearby. Clara froze, dragging Tommy behind a gnarled tree. They peered around. A figure emerged, a woman clad in flowing robes, her every step graceful, as though she flowed rather than walked. Her long, dark hair cascaded down her back, and her eyes sparkled with an intensity that sent shivers down Clara's spine. "Do you seek the truth?" the woman asked, her voice melodic but laced with a haunting echo. "What do you mean?" Clara replied, stepping forward despite Tommy's warning tug on her sleeve. "The truth about this realm," the woman continued, her gaze piercing through them. "It is not just an escape. It demands something in return." "What do you mean?" Tommy's voice trembled, fear magnified by uncertainty. She extended her palm, motioning gracefully as if inviting them closer. "You escaped the darkness, but you also stepped into its embrace. To leave, one must confront the shadows of their own past." Clara and Tommy exchanged a glance. The weight of her words settled heavily, feeling insurmountable. Could they really face the pain they'd been running from? The woman's expression softened. "Seek the pool of reflection. It can reveal your deepest fears, and your greatest strengths. But beware, the shadows will follow. You must be willing to confront what you've lost." "Where is it?" Clara asked, her voice fierce, determination coursing through her. "Follow the path of whispers," the woman replied, her tone cryptic. "But no, the shadows are relentless and they will manipulate your doubts." Without waiting for more, Clara nodded to Tommy and they took off, the bustling colors of the garden now vibrant obstacles in their path. But soon, the whispers became tangible, guiding yet unsettling, drawing them deeper into the realm. As they ran, Clara felt the presence of dark tendrils encroaching upon her thoughts. Memories climbed from the recesses of her mind, her father's laughter, his comforting hand in hers, and the look of despair as shadows swallowed him whole. Panic swelled in her chest. "I don't want to see it." Tommy screamed suddenly, stumbling as he gripped his head in distress. "What if it's too much?" "Focus, Tommy," Clara urged, pulling him onward, though the ground beneath seemed to pulse with her anxiety, amplifying their fears. They rounded a corner, and the path opened into a clearing where a vast pool of reflection shimmered with unsettling brilliance. Its surface rippled like quicksilver, holding secrets and sorrows beneath. Clara felt drawn to it, but terror gripped her heart. What lay beneath that surface? Before she could answer, a roar echoed through the garden, a familiar roar. Her father's voice. "Clara." "Tommy." But was it really him? The shadows swarmed, a dark tide rushing toward them. "You need to make a choice. Are you brave enough to face the truth?" The woman's voice rang in Clara's mind. As shadows cloaked their escape route, Clara's pulse quickened. Could they push through this portal of memories? "Let us do this." She steeled herself, resolute. Together, they moved closer, the pool of reflection shimmering ominously, ready to unleash the truth they had been avoiding. But would facing their past lead to liberation, or would it plunge them deeper into the abyss? Clara had no answer as darkness clawed at her heels, pulling her into a memory she dreaded most. Would they take the plunge or retreat to a world they barely understood? The moment loomed, and the shadows were closing in. The moment hung in the air, thick with tension. Clara leaned closer to the shimmering surface of the pool of reflection, its rippling mirror reflecting fragmented glimpses of her past. She could see flashes of laughter, joyful family dinners, and, lurking in the shadows, the darkness that prowled just beyond reach. "Clara, what if we regret it?" Tommy whispered, his voice trembling. The shadows danced closer, and she could hear twisted whispers echoing their fears. "We have to try," Clara said, though doubt gnawed at her insides. She brushed her hand over the surface, shimmering coldness sending a jolt through her. Images swirled, swirling faster than her racing heart. The roar of her father echoed once more, louder now, and directly from the depths of the pool. "Clara." "Tommy." It was desperate. It was a plea. "Dad." Clara screamed, but the intensity of the sensation slammed into her like a tidal wave. The voices of the shadows neared, a chilling chorus that chillingly mimicked her father. "Come back, don't leave me." Her breath caught like a chokehold. She could barely think straight. "Clara." Tommy yanked on her arm, panic flooding his voice. "The shadows." "Stop." She pressed her palms against the surface, eyes wide, sinking into the depths that clutched at her. I have to know. I can't lose him. In an instant, the world blurred. Clara felt herself being pulled in, she succumbed to the grasp of the pool. The transition was jarring. There was no soft landing but a headlong dive into darkness. She gasped as the scene morphed around her. She stood in what appeared to be their home, a memory captured in vivid detail. The familiar sense of her mom's cooking filled the air, mixed with the sweetness of floral perfume. Laughter rang out from the living room. Clara, Tommy. Dinner's ready. A voice chimed, light as a feather. But it wasn't pure joy that enveloped her, it was shadowed by sorrow. She turned, and there, in the corner, was her father, his face twisted in grief. The laughter faded, replaced by an echoing silence that made her heart ache. What is this? Why am I seeing this? She whispered, dread crashing over her like a heavy blanket. Suddenly, shadows lashed out, twisting through the light, morphing into dark figures that coiled around her father, suffocating the joy from the room. He can't see you, Clara. They hissed, slithering closer, their voices clawing at her sanity. You left him, you abandoned him, stop. Get away from him. Clara screamed, thrusting her hands forward, but they passed through the shadows as if they were smoke, earning her nothing but a lump in her throat. Clara. Tommy's distant voice called to her, but it felt like a thread stretching thinner. The tugging of the shadows was relentless, consuming everything around them. Come back. You need to come back. I want to leave him. She fought through the tidal wave of despair that clawed at her, forcing herself toward her father. As she reached out, she felt the warmth of his presence, the familiar comfort that had always soothed her fears. Dad! She cried. But as she did, the darkness lashed out again, blurring her vision and dragging her under. Suddenly, in the chaos, her father turned, eyes wide with confusion, the shadows flickering around him like angry wasps. Clara? Is that you? His voice was a fractured whisper, pierced with agony. Yes. I'm here. I'm right here. She shouted, reaching for him as the darkness tightened its grip, dragging her farther from him. Clara. Fight it. Don't let them take you. Tommy shouted from the shadows, hands outstretched, the depth of the struggle weighed heavily, pulling Clara in every direction. She felt lost between two worlds, the light of her memories and the pressing darkness that wrung every shred of hope from her heart. Whatever you do, don't become them. A distant voice echoed, the woman's words cutting through the chaos. Clara took a shaky breath and strained against the shadows. I'm not afraid of you. She screamed, determination flooding her body. You will not take me from him. I want to let you win. As the shadows writhed, Clara felt a surge of defiance. She focused on her father, the warmth of his presence guiding her. I want to abandon you. With a burst of strength, Clara moved forward, and the atmosphere shifted. Light broke through the shadowy tendrils, and as she pushed through, the tumult of memories began to fade, revealing the truth she had known all along. The love she held for her father could conquer even the darkest fears. But just as Clara thought she had broken free, a chilling whisper slithered through the air, a single phrase that sent ice through her veins. You may conquer your fears, but are you ready for what comes next? Then everything went black. What awaited them on the other side of that darkness? Would they emerge stronger, or would the shadows consume them whole? Clara jolted awake, gasping for air, her heart pounding in her chest. Darkness enveloped her, thick and heavy like a fog that pressed against her skin. Every direction felt claustrophobic, and confusion swirled in her mind. Where was she? Tommy? She called out weakly, her voice barely rising above a whisper. Silence answered her, a chilling emptiness swirling around. Panic began to claw at her throat, tightening like a noose. She could faintly remember the shadows, the desperate plea from her father, the fear that had clawed at her heart. She pushed herself to stand, forcing her legs to carry her. One step, then another. The air felt charged, the kind that makes the hairs on your neck stand up. Shadows clung to the edges of her vision, darting just outside the range of her sight. "Tommy!" She shouted louder this time, every ounce of her voice echoing back to her. The last thing she remembered was his outstretched hands, frantically trying to pull her back from the dark embrace of the pool. Cold sweat beaded on her forehead. Was she alone? A shiver ran down her spine suddenly, a low, guttural whisper brushed against her ear. "You think you can escape?" Clara spun around, her heart racing. "You belong with us." In an instant, dark figures began to converge around her, their forms shifting and morphing like oil in water. They were back, the shadows that had threatened her father. Rage flared inside her, hot and unapologetic. "I won't let you take me," she yelled defiantly. The shadows hissed, recoiling at her fiery courage, but then they surged forward, swirling like a storm. "You left him," they spat, clouding her vision. "You abandoned him to us." Images flickered in front of her, her father alone in their home, the laughter fading as the door closed behind her. Guilt ripped through her, fierce and biting. She stumbled back, the shadows closing in like a vice. "No. I didn't mean to. I didn't abandon him," she cried, clenching her fists, summoning every ounce of strength she could muster. "He needs me. I need him." As if responding to her words, a beam of light broke through the darkness, illuminating a path ahead. Her heart raced with hope. The light felt warm, promising, like a lifeline. But could she trust it? Risking everything, she sprinted toward it, the shadows screaming in anger as she moved. The light enveloped her, flickering like the flame of a candle, pushing against the encroaching darkness. "Fight!" a voice called, ringing clear through the chaos. "You have to fight for the truth." With every step, Clara felt the shadows waver, their hold weakening. She could see it now, a vision of her father beyond the light, waiting, hoping, just out of reach. "I'm coming!" she shouted, determination coursing through her. She ran harder, heart pounding like a war drum, the shadows clawing at her heels, desperate to drag her back. Then she burst through the barrier, collapsing into a place that was bright and warm, filled with a honeyed glow that felt like home. She lay there for a moment, gasping, her eyes adjusting to the brightness, and there he was. Her father. "Clara?" he asked, a hint of disbelief etched into his features. She could see the shadows flickering at the edges of her vision, threatening to swallow their reunion whole. "Dad. It's me," she cried, reaching for him. But something was wrong. His expression shifted, fear replacing joy. The darkness surged again, pulling her back, whispering promises of despair. "You are not meant to be here." Clara felt the suffocating grip tightening around her, the very gravity of her fears anchoring her in place. She fought against the shadows, but this time something deep within her began to tremble. "Do you want this?" a whisper came, weaving through her consciousness. "Do you really want to face him, knowing what you've done?" Her heart sank. Could she face him? Could she stand there and explain what had happened? The shadows tightened their grip, dragging her back toward the familiar realm of despair. "Clara!" Her father's voice called again, filled with desperate hope. She had to make a choice: to surrender to the darkness or confront the truth, no matter how painful. And just as she prepared to step forward, a new voice echoed through the light, trembling yet full of fire. "Look inside yourself. Remember who you are." What did that mean? Clara's pulse quickened. She could feel a shift in the air, like waiting for a storm to break. Just as clarity washed over her, the shadows whispered again, threatening to engulf everything in despair. Would she push through, revealing every fragile truth that haunted her? Or would she retreat into the safety of the ever-looming darkness? Clara blinked into the light, her father's concerned face etched with pain and confusion. Flickering shadows danced at the periphery, their whispered taunts ricocheting off the walls of her mind. "You have to fight the darkness," she heard again, as though it were a distant echo of her own thoughts. "Clara, is it really you?" The tremor in her father's voice sent a shiver down her spine. His eyes, usually so filled with warmth, flickered with doubt. "What have you done?" A knot of panic coiled in her stomach. Dad, I. The words caught in her throat, heavy with all the things she hadn't said. She had been pulled into a world of shadows and fear, but here he was, alive in the light. You need to get out, he urged, gesturing violently at the swirling darkness. They'll take you. I'm not going back, she cried, the determination flooding her voice. The shadows slithered closer, their sinister whispers growing louder as if they fed on her uncertainty. I'm going to save you. Clara, listen. His voice dropped to a whisper, urgent but laden with a heavy caution. The shadows feed on guilt and fear. They'll use what you don't want to face against you. A vision of Tommy's outstretched hands invaded her mind, a memory hot with regret. Had she truly abandoned him? Every choice felt like a weight pressing down on her as the shadows hissed, "You left him." No, she shouted defiantly, pushing against the walls of her own guilt. I didn't leave him. The shadows surged, pulling at her like a vicious tide. Admit it, they shrieked. You're the reason he's in danger. No. The air crackled around her as a surge of energy coursed through her veins. Clara thrust her arms forward, pushing against the encroaching darkness. I want to let you win. The light pulsed, responding to her defiance. In that instant, she could see the heart of the darkness shift, twisting and contorting, struggling against her resolve. For the first time it appeared less daunting, less of a force that could control her. Clara. Her father's voice cut through the chaos, steadier now. You need to confront what you fear. Whatever you've done, it doesn't define who you are. Her heart raced as his words pierced through the fog. I am not my mistakes. But could she bear to face the truth? The thought tethered her for just a second before she broke free. Tommy needs me, she shouted into the maelstrom. I'm coming for you. With a powerful thrust of her arms, she focused on the silhouettes of her fears rising like monstrous specters. Clara stepped forward, unraveling the fraying threads of guilt as she moved. With each step, the light around her grew brighter, illuminating the path ahead that led back to her brother. Keep going, her father urged, barely more than a shadow himself now, as the overwhelming light filled her vision. She could see the contours of his face becoming less distinct. I believe in you. You have the power, Clara. The shadows writhed, shrieking in agony as the illumination pushed them back, their whispers turning to snarls. A sense of clarity washed over her. The need to face the truth was dawning, cutting the darkness into fragments. Just as she felt herself teetering on the precipice of liberation, a sudden chill swept through her. A dark shape stepped forward from the shadows, its features obscured but undeniably sinister. A chilling laugh echoed, sending shivers racing down her spine. Did you think it would be that easy? The figure sneered, its voice dripping with malice. Clara's heart pounded. A moment of terror paralyzed her. Who are you? She gasped, eyes wide, locked onto the malevolent presence before her. The figure leaned closer, the shadow swirling like mist around its form. I am the truth you are too afraid to face. Could she confront whatever nightmare lingered within that darkness? The ground beneath her trembled, a rumbling heralding a new fight. A sick realization clawed at her gut, planting seeds of doubt again. What if the truth was more terrifying than she could ever imagine? And as the shadows began to solidify, encircling her, Clara braced herself for battle. The moment had come to reclaim not only her brother but herself as well. Would she summon the courage to set both of them free? Or would the darkness consume them both? The air was electric with tension. Clara stood at the edge of the light, shadows swirling like restless spirits around her. The figure grinned maliciously, and Clara's heart raced. She could sense what lurked just beyond the surface of those shadowy depths, her fears, her regrets, the pain of leaving Tommy behind. Face the truth, it taunted, its voice a chilling echo of her own doubts. What you've done cannot be undone. No, Clara shouted, defiance igniting within her like a wildfire. You have no power over me. She was done running, done hiding. With every ounce of strength pooling in her limbs, Clara charged forward, light streaming from her heart, illuminating the darkness that sought to entrap her. The shadows hissed in fury, recoiling as the warmth of her resolve pushed against them. "I will not let you take me." Just then, the shadows parted with a rush, revealing a familiar face, Tommy. He was there, standing not far from her, eyes wide, filled with both fear and hope. "Clara!" he cried, stretching out his small hands, reaching for her. "Tommy!" The sound of his voice washed over her like a balm. But the figure glared, venomous fury twisting its features. "Your brother is lost. You're too late to save him." "No!" Clara screamed, desperate energy coursing through her veins. "We're not lost." She took a step toward Tommy, feeling the shadows claw at her, trembling beneath her determination. "I am coming for you, Tommy. Hold on." The shadows entwined her ankles, but as she took another step, they began to dissolve, their power waning against her fierce resolve. She could feel the light surrounding her, igniting every corner of her heart. "Clara!" Tommy's voice was now stronger, a beacon guiding her home. "I believe in you." As she took another step, the figure cackled wildly, shadows rising like a terrifying tidal wave. But Clara clenched her fists and ground her teeth, pushing forward, breaking through their writhing mass. The darkness shrieked, but she moved faster, determined to shatter the chains of fear that bound her brother. Clara's voice carried over the turmoil. "You will not defeat us. We are stronger than you think." Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from her heart. The shadows shrieked again, twisting and curling away from her. The figure's sinister grin faltered as Clara surged forward, the warmth of the light embracing her like an old friend. "Leave him alone!" she roared, hands reaching for Tommy, their fingers locking together as Clara's light swelled to encompass them both. He looked up at her, eyes bright with hope as they breathed life into one another. In that moment of connection, everything shifted. The darkness recoiled like a wounded beast, and Clara felt the truth wash over her. Her fears carried weight, but so did her love. The shadows lost their strength as Tommy's belief in her filled every space within. Fear ceased to exist. "We are stronger together," she shouted, the truth ringing louder than any lie told by the darkness. The figure screeched in desperation, a wretched sound that echoed in the night. But Clara and Tommy stood firm, the light radiating between them, a shield against the encroaching shadows. With a final surge of determination, they sprinted toward the heart of the light. Clara felt the momentum build as they broke free, scattering the last of the darkness away. Tommy held on tightly, their connection brighter than any shadow that dared to harm them. As they burst through the boundary of light, they landed in a golden meadow, the sun shining warmly down on them, illuminating the path home. Moments passed, the remnants of fear dissipated. Clara turned, there was her father, standing in the distance, his face filled with relief and pride. "Dad!" They ran toward him, hearts singing with joy as the shadows faded into mere memories, a testament of what they had conquered. Mr. Holloway embraced them, his arms wrapping around them like a secure fortress. "I thought I lost you." His voice trembled with emotion. Clara felt the weight of their love hold them tightly, the shadows left behind a distant echo. For the first time in what felt like forever, they stood together, stronger, united against whatever might come next. The darkness had no power over them anymore, their love casting a brilliant light far brighter than any fear. Clara breathed deeply, looking into her father's eyes. "I'll never forget what happened," she said, almost a whisper, yet confident with a newfound strength. "But I won't let it define me." "I'm so proud of you both," he replied, and in that moment, Clara knew they would face the future, side by side, their love illuminating even the darkest choices. Together, they turned towards new horizons, hearts intertwined, ready to create memories free from shadows, more vivid and beautiful than they had ever known. And as they walked forward, Clara smiled, the sun warming her skin and fueling her spirit, knowing that every step they took was theirs alone, a journey of unfettered hope. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss what comes next. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this story. Your commitment means everything. Let us keep this adventure alive together.